Hi everyone, it's Alice, and today we're gonna do a Dark Academia TBR. Autumn is the perfect season to read Dark Academia, I feel, and I have a lot of these kinds of books that I would like to get to, and I'm never able to read as many of them as I would like during the autumn season, but I've put all of them in a pile anyway, and a girl can dream. Now, Dark Academia is one of those things I feel like is a little bit up for interpretation what it actually is and what falls into it. I feel like there aren't that many full on Dark Academia books that actually fit like all of the criteria. So I think a lot of the ones I have are more like they have those kinds of vibes. And I really enjoy these kinds of books, whether they're full on or if it's just like a hint of a vibe somewhere. Anyways, I have a stack of books, so let's just go through them. The first book I have is actually one that I just bought because it just came out. It's Katabasis by R.F. Kuang, which is a book that I have been super excited about, and I know a lot of people have been excited about this. And I've read a couple of books from this author, and I've really liked them. And I think based on what this book is about, like the synopsis, I think maybe this is gonna be my favorite by her. I hope I'm not jinxing it, but I just feel like it sounds so good. It follows two rivaling students who are studying magic at Cambridge, and they're both working with this particular professor who's like the greatest magic worker in the world, and he has ended up in hell. I don't know how, but he's ended up there, and it's obviously not great. And so these students sort of have to work together, I think, to travel to hell and get him back out. It sounds a little absurd, but also perfect for me. Like, even if this wasn't written by this author, I would have wanted to read that. So I'm very excited about this. I'm also guessing that one of the main characters' name is Alice, because it says so on the back here. And this edition is pretty cool. I got the hardback edition. It has sprayed edges. I'm not a, like, I don't know how I feel about sprayed edges all of the time, but I actually do quite like these. And yeah, I'm very excited about this one. I hope I love it as much as I think I'm going to. Secondly, we have The Four by Ellie Keel, which is set at an exclusive private school. I think it's set in 1999, and we meet four students who are the only scholarship students at the school, and they sort of band together because of that. And one of these students has a dark secret, which part of the story is about, and then there is also something violent brewing at the school. I don't really know what it is, but it sounds intriguing. And I'm intrigued by this because I remember when I heard about it coming out, I was like, ooh, I think I want to read that. And then I read some early reviews and they were kind of mixed. So I was like, hmm. But I think I'm just going to give it a go and see. I am wondering if this is one of those books that's trying to be dark academia a little too hard because some of the reviews that I read said that. But I don't know, maybe it's good. And I've heard that it's really dark, which I am into. We also have An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. And this one is about a young woman who gets a call out of nowhere inviting her to take an entrance exam into a magic school that is like located in this secret private place somewhere. And the reason that she's been called into this is that she has like a power of persuasion, and they think that maybe if she trains it, she might be able to wield this power as a weapon and maybe even control others, which sounds a little wild. She gets in because obviously, if not, the book would just be over. And she's thrown into this unknown world, and she's training her powers and learning about magic, and she also has a very charismatic advisor because of course she does. And I think throughout the story her power grows, but she also unearths some secrets about this world that she's entered into. It sounds really intriguing, and I've read The Year of the Witching by this author and I really liked it, so I'm hoping that I'm gonna like this one as well. And I do quite like dark academia when there is like fantasy elements in it as well. And it just sounds really intriguing, this power of hers, like the power of persuasion. I'm really interested in like reading about that and what it's like. Next, we have this one. This is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid, and I just read my first book by this author and I really liked it, so I'm excited to read some more. This one follows an architecture student, I think, who her whole life she's been plagued by visions of this fairy king. And she loves this particular book that I think is also about fairies, and she's kind of obsessed with it. And she's quite, like, she's struggling at the school. And then I think the estate of the author who wrote the book she loves so much decides to hold a competition because they need to, like, redesign the author's estate or something. I think the author is dead, but there's a competition about some architecture stuff with this author, I guess. And our main character feels like this is fate, like this is perfect for her. So she goes, but then she gets there and she meets this, like, literature scholar who is there to sort of unmask the author as a fraud. I don't really know. It sounds a little bit complicated and I feel like I'm not totally getting it, but it sounds intriguing. I do like the idea of following an architecture student. I think it's the kind of situation where these two rivals sort of have to band together to figure all of the stuff out, and I think it leans a little bit more YA, but I've heard it's quite dark and gothic, which I am really into. But I have also heard that there is a fair bit of romance in here, which I'm not always that interested in. So I don't really know what to expect from this. I feel like if the vibes are right, I could get really into the romance. Then we have The Society for Soulless Girls by Laura Stephen, and this is a YA thriller which is set at the school that closed a decade ago because of these murders. I think 4 students were murdered, and these murders are, like, infamous. But they decide to open the school again, and our main character enters that school and she really wants to figure out what happened back then, and she starts investigating, but then I think another student is murdered in the same way that the previous students were murdered. I think maybe it's the main character's roommate. I'm not quite sure. And that's all I really know. It sounds kind of mysterious and thrilling, and I think if the vibes are right, it could be cool. And I'm intrigued by this school and these murders and the mystery. I do feel like I've read somewhere that there is, like, some sapphic romance in this one. I don't know if I'm mixing it with another book, but if that's in here, that's cool. This next one is also YA. It's A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee, and this one is set at a school that is set up in some mountains. It's centuries old and ivy covered. That setting sounds amazing, obviously. And we're following a character who is re-entering that school after having gone to it before, but then I think she dropped out for a little bit because her girlfriend died. Or maybe was murdered? But she's back to, like, finish her last year, and she ends up in a dorm that may or may not be haunted by some witches or something. And apparently the school has, like, a background or history of witchcraft, and I think maybe that has something to do with the death of the girlfriend. And then, like, our main character goes back to the school and history starts repeating itself. Whether that's someone being murdered or it has something to do with witchcraft or both, I don't really know. But I feel like the mix between dark academia and witchcraft is gonna be perfect for me because I love both of those things. Then we have one that I don't think actually has an academic setting, but I've heard that it has dark academia vibes. So I feel like this is more like in the vicinity instead of straight on. It's The Luminaries by Susan Dennard, and this one is set in a town that you can't find on any map. Your phone won't work there, and the forest surrounding the town is gonna try to kill you. So it sounds like a really cheerful place. It follows a girl who wants nothing more than to join the Luminaries, which is an ancient order in this town, and I think they protect the town from the monsters and the nightmares that are out in the forest. And I think she kind of wants to do it because her family has fallen into disgrace because her father was exposed as a traitor. The trials are really, really dangerous, though, and deadly, and so I think she ends up recruiting the help of an old best friend, and that's all I really know. I really like the idea of that, though. I really like these kinds of books that have, like, trials, and I like the idea of this ancient order. I'm also very curious about this forest and how dangerous it actually is, and it sounds kind of dark, and just very interesting. And yeah, it says on the back here, not all monsters can be slain, and not all nightmares are confined to the dark. which sounds a little spooky. Next, we have a translated book, which sounds very strange, which is kind of why I got it. It's 4x4 by Sara Mesa, and this is set at this school where, like, wealthy people around the world send their kids to that school to, like, shield them from the horrors of the outside world and everything that's happening in, like, the big cities. So it sounds a little bit dystopian, I'm not quite sure. But the school in here is also very odd, and no one really knows what they're teaching there, and it's very secretive, and it just sounds very strange. I don't really know much more about this than that, but I've read some reviews, and I think this could kind of go both ways for me. I've heard that the writing style is very unique and that it is a very weird book, and I'm wondering if it's too weird for me or if I'm gonna get really into it. I think it could go both ways, but I think for sure, either way, it will be a very interesting read. I also have this beautiful book. This is An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson, and this one is set deep in the hills of Massachusetts at this ancient and isolated college where it says that secrets are currency, ambition is lifeblood, and strange ceremonies welcome students into the fold. Which already, that's enough for me. That sounds very intriguing. But I think this follows a girl who gets to the school and immediately she's thrust into this like rivalry with this other girl, and both of them are sort of drawn into, I don't know what they're drawn into, but they're drawn to this poetry professor that's at the school. And I don't know how all this connects, but it sounds kind of intense. I feel like I remember reading somewhere that this is a vampire book. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think that it has some sapphic romance to it, which I'm into. So maybe these rivals become lovers? I don't know. I kind of hope that there's vampires in here. I think that could be kind of cool. I haven't read a lot of vampire books, and I think vampires and dark academia could actually go together very well. Then we have this one, which again I think is a YA book. This is They Wish They Were Us by Jessica Goodman, and this says it's a murder mystery set at an exclusive prep school, which is cool. And we're following, I think we meet our main character in her senior year, but in her freshman year, her best friend was murdered, and the boyfriend of that friend was sent away for it. Everyone thinks that he did it. I think maybe he even confessed. But then in her senior year, she starts getting clues that maybe they caught the wrong person. I've read somewhere that there is something about a secret society in here as well, which sounds intriguing. And again, this is one of those, I think could sort of go both ways for me, but I just want to try it and see what I think. Moving on, we have The World Cannot Give by Tara Isabella Burton, and this one is set at a school in Maine, and I think our main character is kind of like shy and sensitive, and she's a new student, and she's obsessed with this novel, and she dreams of her life reflecting that novel, and she's just a little lost. And then I think she gets into the school choir, and she feels like maybe she can find a place for herself there. And this choir is led by a charismatic, high achieving, kind of fanatical woman. Our main character is all in though, and she finds herself in this world of music and ritual, and there's mention of like cliff dives and crypt visits, and I think the book sort of explores how far she's willing to go in her devotion to this choir leader, and it seems like it's all about obsession, which I'm really into. I am also very curious about these crypt visits, which sound kind of cool, but I like the idea of music being a big part of the story, and I think it's just all about obsession. Then we have another one where I think again it's more like dark academia vibes than anything else. This doesn't actually have an academic setting, but it is set in a graveyard, which I'm into. It's The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. And this one follows a main character whose parents are dead, and she and her siblings are scraping by working as grave diggers in this remote village. But it says that the sort of challenge with being gravediggers in this town is that the dead don't always stay dead, which is unsettling. The risen corpses are known as bone houses, and I think what happens is that a newcomer moves into the village, and this seems to rouse the bone houses more than usual. I think that's what the story is about. I am very curious as to like what the undead are like in this book, because the fact that they're called bone houses makes me think that they're more like skeleton-like, but if they lean more zombie-esque, I'm a little scared because I really don't like zombies. But I'm gonna try it out anyway and see. I do really like the fact that it's set in a graveyard. Next, we have one set at Oxford. It's The Latinist by Mark Prins. And this one follows this student who has really thrived under the tutelage of this particular professor, but now she's finishing her studies and she wants to get a job and she's really struggling. And she finds out that the professor is actually like, he has something to do with the fact that she can't get a job. Like, he's made it so in a way that she can't really, like, she can only work for him. And I think he thinks that he's in love with her, and he's really invasive and creepy, and she tries to get away, but she can't. I don't really know, but it sounds like a very interesting story about like obsession, but also it has like an academic edge. I don't really know. This guy sounds so creepy though, and I'm a little scared, but also intrigued. On to the next one, we have Curious Tides by Pascale Lacelle, and this one follows a student at a magic school who has like healing magic, but it's considered quite mediocre. And I think the story takes off when she is on a class trip, and her classmates get like caught in this sea cave and they're stuck. And I think all of her classmates die, like she's the only survivor. And she comes out of this and suddenly she has these new and impossible powers. And it seems like if anyone were to find out about these powers, it would like totally ruin her life. She needs help to get these powers under control though, and so she decides to enlist the help of the school's most reclusive student. And that's all I really know. It sounds intriguing and like it has an interesting setup, and I can see that there are some pages in here that are all black. So I wonder what this is, but it looks intriguing. And yeah, I don't really know a lot about this. I have seen it around, but I haven't heard a lot of reviews or anything, so I'm kind of just going into it blind. But I don't know, it sounds cool, and I do really like when these books have a little bit of like magic to them. Second to last, we have another one that I just got actually. It's A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft, and this is a sapphic fantasy about these two rival scholars, I think, who are on this magical expedition, and they end up having to solve a murder, and that sounds amazing to me. I think they're on this expedition to find this thing of great power, and because of that, there are a lot of powerful people on the expedition, and there's a lot of political intrigue and danger, which sounds interesting. This is one of those books where, like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this or not, but I keep seeing it, and every time I see it, it makes me want to read it. I think it may have something to do with this cover. I really, really like it, but I'm just gonna have to give it a go. And yeah, again, this doesn't have like an academic setting, but they are academics, both of the main characters, so it is beautiful, and I'm just gonna try it. Lastly, we have a book that I am sort of in two minds about. I can't really figure out if I want to read this, if I should read it, but then I've also almost gotten rid of this book several times, and then there's something that makes me want to keep it. So I think I'm just gonna have to try it. It's The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. It's about 6 talented magicians who are all competing for a place at the Alexandrian Society, which is like a magical society that protects the knowledge that from like civilizations of antiquity or something like that. I don't remember how it's phrased, but it's something like that. And they only let people in once a decade, and they get a year to prove themselves. And I guess that's what the story is about. I don't really know. I think, like, when I hear that, I think that I could like it, but then I've just heard a lot of mixed things about this. And I might be a little bit judgmental because it's like a TikTok book or like a TikTok recommendation. I don't know. I think we're just gonna have to try it. I do like the idea of the Alexandrian society and like a secret society and knowledge and things like that. And I have actually heard that this is very character driven, and I do like character driven books. And it does have some illustrations in it. So I'm just gonna have to try this. If you've read it, I would love to hear your thoughts and if you think I would like it or not. I still think I'm gonna try it, but I just don't know. That was the end of my stack of books though. That was everything I had for you today. Now, I would love to know if any of you have any book recommendations that have like dark academia in them. Whether it's full on or it's just like it has a hint of the right vibes. I would love to hear about it. I know I said that I don't even have time to read all of these, but you know, you can never have enough book recommendations, and I'll just add them to my list and we'll see. It's just nice to know, you know? As always, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye!